Dear participants, uh, I welcome you all to this last half session of the faculty development program on damage tolerance, a new design strategy. So far, we have heard many sessions giving you the fundamental background. Then, sessions which dealt with lots of analytical understanding of the subject. And then there were some application-oriented sessions that you have heard too. The question comes to the mind when you actually begin to get introduced to the course like this, that can some numerical help, can some numerical hand be brought in picture so that some simple problems at least can be solved to begin with. Okay, and the answer to that query in your mind is really affirmative, and yes, the answer is yes, and it is possible. Okay, you all know that finite element method is a very, very universal method of carrying out analysis of mechanical parts as designers for us, but that's only from the designer's point of view. You know that finite element method, because it's being a general method, can be applied to diverse fields of engineering and science. Okay, from magnetism to human body, and from human body to understanding the forces that are acting between two molecules, or for that matter atoms at subatomic level. Okay. We saw yesterday the use of finite element analysis in molecular dynamic or crystal plasticity simulations also. Today we saw that it could be used in human body applications also. It was, of course, interaction of one material with another material, which was an engineering material like cement. However, there are some people I know who are working in the area of biomechanics, and they use finite element method for modeling the entire human body. If the appropriate data and material properties are known, this method is going to be applicable everywhere. Therefore, it is very, very likely that it will be applicable for, calculations of the stress intensity factors also. Some of my MTech students have done a lot of work in doing calculations using finite element method for establishing the stress intensity factors in the past, and they have done more complex analysis of three-dimensional type also for generating some results, and for utilizing them further in the final goal of their project objective. Here, to beginners, if I talk about all those great figures and procedures, perhaps it will not be that appropriate. And since this is going to be a small session of about an hour's length, since this adjustment was to be done for accommodating Dr. Raman Maithi's lecture, for which lasted for only 1 hour. So I had to take a special permission from AICTE authorities to split a session into two like this. And since one was to be given by him, the other session, I thought very carefully of sharing with you how finite element analysis can be used very easily for obtaining stress intensity factor, at least for bodies of reasonable intricacy in their geometry. Okay, I'm going to show you a simple application where construction of the model will become very easy in your presence, and therefore I'll show you a standard case for which the solution is available in the literature also. And the intention behind choosing a smaller geometry is not only from the point of view of availability of the time, but also from the point of view of letting you know that whatever you are calculating is going to be dependable. Very importantly, I have taken a standard case from literature for discussion in this session in the form of demo on finite element analysis commercial software, just for this reason that I can calculate the SIF for that problem analytically also, and I can do that using finite element analysis software also. So that's what is the introduction and background of the session, small session that is proposed for about an hour now onwards. And I request you all to focus on this so that you take back something that you can start doing from tomorrow on your finite element analysis software. Okay, and which will make you conversant with the subject subsequently, and will help you develop confidence in as you go on understanding more and more complex, take up more and more complex problems in the future. And slowly it will draw you into understanding of the theory also, and you can remain connected with it through small BTech projects or so in the beginning. Okay, so with this background of the discussion, the presentation, I would like to now present before you few slides that I would like to show you in the beginning, so that you understand what is the problem and how are we going about. So I present it to you all now. Please allow me to close my camera, because the connectivity is not very good at my end, at least during this particular course. Although I have been able to manage not very badly during this time, I must switch off the camera so that you can hear me carefully. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Can you see the full screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the title proposed is finite element analysis for fracture mechanics. It is actually particularly about demonstrating you how SIF can be calculated for a given component geometry. Okay. And for certain reasons, as I shared with you earlier, I'm using a standard case for which the analytical solution is available in the literature. I'm sorry, I have not a very big plot of presentation here, but just to maintain the uniformity, I have written the plot of presentation. I'll tell you the problem in the beginning. Then, I'll explain you how symmetry can be used. And then, analytical calculations of SIF also will be shown. And then we will go to demo using a commercial software called ANSYS. Okay, we have a commercial software licensed, with our institute, and I'll show you demo using that. Okay. The problem description. There is a finite plate with central through the thickness crack, and it is subjected to tensile stress of 125 megapascal, as shown in the figure. You can see the figure. There is a plate. It is almost square in shape. Although we are not taking into account the height dimension, it can be regarded as infinite. Okay, so we are not actually going to take into account the height, but the shape of the figure is rectangular. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, it is made of steel with Young's modulus of 200 gigapascal and Poisson's ratio of 0.3. The plate is 0.2 meters wide and the crack width is 0.04 meter. Okay, determine the stress intensity factor for this plate. Okay, so we note down the details, in our own terminology of fracture mechanics. So I read that, generally in fracture mechanics problems, the total crack length, because of the symmetry, is described as 2A instead of A. Okay, it provides some ease in calculations at later stage. So, you call it as 2A, and since the crack is 0.0 meter wide, half of it is going to be your crack length A, and that is to be written as 0.02 meter. Okay, that is 20 millimeters, and the W, width of the plate is given to you as 0.2 meters, and of course the far field stress, or the stress that is acting on the material which is far away from the location of the discontinuity in the form of crack, is given to you in magnitude as 125 megapascal. Sorry, the P has to be capital there, my mistake. There are some assumptions that we are going to make in the beginning of solving this problem. One very simple assumption, because nothing is mentioned about the material except what is given to us is the Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. We can assume that the material is, linear elastic, okay, and it is going to be isotropic, so that linear elastic fracture mechanics.
We can see.
Okay, so since we are interested in finding out the SIF, And obviously our interest is to find out something which can be regarded as the property, let us say, at the moment. So you can make the assumption of plane strain conditions to exist in the problem. Okay. However, as I have said yesterday in my earlier session, that one can also think of calculating the stress intensity factor, treating this as in this is treating this problem of the type plane stress. Okay. But our assumption here is plane strain. Look at these calculations, very simple calculations. The SIF for the center crack plate under uniform tension is given by a reference. Okay. The SIF can be written as, in general, the definition of SIF is K1 is equal to sigma under root pi f of alpha, where alpha is actually the geometry related parameter A by W. And from the reference, I got the function f of alpha as 1.0 plus 0.128 alpha minus 0.288 alpha square plus 1.532 alpha cube. And this solution, generally all theoretical or analytical solutions that are given by researchers, they are valid for certain range of the geometric parameters. Therefore, for this solution, the validity of function A by alpha is for the range of alpha varying from 0 to 0.7. Okay. So I have just substituted the value of A by W, and I have substituted A by W value in the right hand side of this f of alpha function and rewritten the calculations here simply. And I find that f of alpha comes out to be 1.011452. Okay. So this value of f of alpha for my geometry, which lies, you can verify that it lies between 0 to 0.7 as value of alpha. In fact, for our problem, alpha is 0.1, as you can clearly see. So the solution is valid. I mean, the problem is, analytical solution is valid for my problem because it lies within this range. And so I substitute that f of alpha in the equation for the stress intensity factor and calculate the stress intensity factor analytically as 31.6916 megapascal under root meter. Okay. Consistently, I have maintained the units for lengths in meter and the unit for stress in or load in megapascal or Newton per meter square. Okay, into 10 to the 6. So I have got without any problem in units, I have obtained the value in megapascal under root meter as 31.6916. This is the theoretical solution. We must respect this solution and it should be regarded as the final correct answer that can be given for this problem. Okay. Now we have to go for finite element analysis of the problem. If you refer to the original plate, you can see that the plate has actually vertical axis of symmetry as well as horizontal axis of symmetry. Therefore, there is double symmetry that exists in the plate, because of which if I have to create the finite element model for this plate, I did not have to create the whole geometry. That's the advantage of finite element models. They can be created in symmetry, and all commercial softwares provide you opportunity of modeling the component with what is called as symmetric boundary conditions. Okay, so what we are going to do here to save the computational time, to save the efforts that are required in doing the analysis on machine, computer, we are just going to model a quarter part, 1/4 part of this geometry. Let us say right hand side top 1/4 part of this we are going to model in our finite element analysis, which I have actually shaded in this particular figure. So only 1/4 of the geometry will match. Okay, and that can be regarded as the quarter model. Okay, so after this, I would like to stop the presentation here and take you for constructing this quarter model of the plate, and then after applying the the loads and the boundary conditions, I can show you how how a stress intensity factor can be calculated for the quarter model using finite element analysis software, and then we'll come back to the presentation again. Okay, so please give me a moment. Professor Gazre, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I will open multiple windows maybe. Let me close everything. That is becoming a nuisance. Great. Are you seeing the screen that I have projected now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Gajre, for your feedback. Now we have to get going. You see, first of all, you must know that this top bar in which, there are some tiles seen where my cursor is, like Windows, this, they are ready to use icons. If you see on the top, there is a bar in which lots of words are written. That is called as the utility menu of the software. Okay. And if you see this left hand side vertical white column, in that there are certain menus given, that is called as the main menu. So I'll call the above ones as utility menu, as it is called by ANSYS also, and these are the main menus. So whenever I'll talk, please refer to that. Now in the beginning of the any finite element analysis, you have to specify what type of analysis you are going to give. So since we are actually working on a plate subjected to load, and we are calculating, structure, the stress intensity factor value that is developed in the structure, it comes under the category structure. The other options are thermal, ANSYS, fluid, and many of you are aware of it already. Okay. All my computations required to be done using ANSYS, I have done in the past using ANSYS APDL, and therefore I feel very conversant with ANSYS APDL, and that's the reason I am showing it to you in ANSYS APDL. However, there must be people in the audience who know Workbench also, and some of them find it more convenient than ANSYS APDL. Therefore, the same analysis can be done using Workbench also. Okay. So now, we have to first of all go for defining the element type. So we go to the preprocessor, we go to the element type, and our plate problem is essentially thickness not required, because it's going to be a thin plate or plate of sufficient thickness, but it's going to be uniform in the thickness direction, and that we have made the plane strain assumption. Therefore, we can keep our geometry restricted to two-dimensional geometry only. Yesterday, in the answer to the question that was raised by me, you have heard Professor Maiti say that even if you create a three-dimensional geometry and try to study the stress intensity factor values along the crack edge, crack front, they are going to vary. So it is essentially a point evaluation which is more meaningful than evaluation along a length, and of course evaluation over a surface is out of question. Okay, so let us first of all, therefore in such a situation 2D model is more conducive and more useful. Okay, so I go to add delete elements, and then I add this element that we want to use here. You remember, Dr. Riker talked about a special element which can simulate the singularity at the crack tip. You know, the 1 over under root r singularity that fracture problems actually have can be modeled if the element is in a position to construct its, locate its nodes at specific positions, okay, and which is called as the quarter point element, okay. If such an element is given a triangular shape, then you know you will find that the elements, mid elements along one particular direction would actually align themselves at can be requested to the software to align themselves at 1/4 of the total length of the element, and therefore the element becomes actually a quarter point element. So this capability is actually available in ANSYS in 8 node 183 element. Please note this number, 8 noded 183 element. So I add that element, you know, it is showing plane 183 is added because we have decided to carry out the analysis with plane strain condition existing. You know, you have to go to the second, you know, window where plane stress, plane strain, axis symmetric, such options can be given. So I click here on plane strain and then say OK. And then, you know, it is instructed to the software, and I am done with the element, and of course its type of analysis that I am going to do with this element. Okay. After the element type is defined, we have to go to the material properties. So we'll define the material. So let us define the material properties. I go to material properties. Then we have to go to material models so that we can specify what type of, you know, material you are going to use. So in the structural icon, you know, we go for linear materials because we are doing linear elastic analysis. It's the elastic analysis, therefore this, and we have assumed that the material is homogeneous and isotropic. Therefore I choose that option. If you have such a material, you know, there are only 2 constants required to define the material behavior, and they are the Young's modulus and, you know, the Poisson's ratio. Therefore I define the Young's modulus. Although we can call it as, let's say, 200 gigapascal, okay, we have to mention it in appropriate units. Therefore we have decided to use the units as, you know, in Newton per meter square. Therefore I convert 200 gigapascal in Newton per meter square, and it becomes actually 2 into e to the 5 or 200 into e to the 3. That's the way it can be written. And you can see that the Poisson's ratio value PRXY can be written as 0.3 as it is mentioned in the problem statement, and your material definition is over. Therefore you can exit from the define material window. Okay. So your material is now defined. Now we can go ahead with the construction of the geometry to see the demo further. As far as the geometry construction is concerned, you have to build it slowly. Okay. Therefore it begins with defining actually the key points of the geometry first. Okay. Remember that we are modeling only the quarter model, and it is not the full model. Okay. So I go to the modeling section. Okay. I go to the modeling section of this in the main menu. Then I go to create. In creates, I say key points. There are a number of options. I go to key point, and then I create in active coordinate system, you know, the key points. Key point number 1, if say I have already calculated the coordinates of the 5 key points, I'll enter them one after another to construct the geometry. The first coordinate is 0, 0. So if you are doing a 3D creation of key points in 3D, it offers you the Z thing also to be written. But since we are in 2D, we don't need to write anything there. So since we'll be creating number of points, I would not like this window to go away. So instead of saying OK, I'll say apply. Okay, and it will create a point and the window will reappear. It has done the specify what are the coordinates of the second point. The second point's coordinate are 0.02 because it is just about, you know, the A distance that I am moving to the right from the center of the plate now to create the second point, and Y is 0. So I say apply. Okay. the second point is created. I go to the third creation of third key point, which is going to be towards the extreme right edge of the plate. So it is half the width of the plate is 0.1. So I have gone to the extreme right edge, vertical edge of the plate while constructing the quarter model. I have applied that and created the point. You can see the points are being created in the active coordinate system. The fourth point is going to go up. You are going to go above, up in the edge, and let us say you are going certain distance above it. Okay, say that distance is also 0.1, and you see that this is the distance is taken as 0.1, and for the fourth point, y has increased to 0.1 as I said. So let me write it there. It is 0.1. I'm sorry, 0.1. And I ask it to apply. Now from the right hand side top corner of the plate, I am coming to the fifth key point, which is on the left hand side middle, on the left hand side of the model or at the middle of the top edge. So that's going to be at above the center of the plate. So x is going to be 0 and y is going to remain as 0.1. So I have finished doing it. So I say okay, the window can disappear now. And it has created 5 points. The first point is here, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So I have my square quarter geometry with 1 to 2 being the location of the half of the crack in the quarter model. So once this is done, you can actually go for defining the line segments. If you want to define the line segments, you can remain in the modeling section, and you can further go in the create subsection. And then you can say that you create the lines, and you will ask it to create the lines for you in the active coordinate system. Okay, and this can be in ANSYS. You must understand that in the bottom there is a window at the bottom. The bottom window will tell you what is the meaning of the tile that you are pressing, button that you are pressing. So now it is saying that pick or enter the end key points defining the line. Okay, so instead of keeping the window at its default position below, you can take it little above so that a new user can also keep reading what is written in the window and accordingly act. So we have to now connect these key points so that one after another, so that the lines can be constructed between them. Okay, so I have chosen the first key point, then second key point. Okay, see the line is established. You can do that in continuation. The third key point. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. From this to this, from 3 to 4, from 4 to 5, and 5 to 1. This is the quarter model with the help of lines that we wanted. And, our job is done. So I say, oh, and that particular part is over. Once you entered that, you have to go to select what are the lines so that I can explain the things properly to you. So I take you to utility menu in the plot control option above. Okay, in the plot control above, there is an option which when I click, it is possible for me to see the numberings that ANSYS has done for various entities on the screen. So first of all, the key point numbering I would like to know. It is already there. So I want to keep it on. And then, this is actually the line numbering. So I have set the line numbering on. I don't have to do anything else. Once I do that, you can see that the line numbering has been applied. So what now the figure has, disappeared here. Don't worry. You have to go to, plot. And you say that lines, and you see that now the figure is available with its node, the key points as well as the line numbers, L1, L2, L3, etc. Okay, so all the 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines can be seen. Note that these are 2 distinct lines because of the presence of crack. Once that is done, you can go further for discretization of the geometry. ANSYS, has important feature that, it divides the given domain into number of small pieces called as elements. So we are going to discretize this. Many of you know now, I don't have to tell you the finite element details here. So in order to get a mesh in appropriate way, this is very important. For SIF determination, the mesh must be created in appropriate manner so that the quarter point elements can be brought in. I mean, the quarter point element of behavior of the element can be exploited in determination of the stress intensity factor. Otherwise, the results are going to be wrong. Okay, please note that. So we are creating a geometry like a cobweb. The spider will create a web in corners of our walls. Okay, you must have observed the shape of that web. You see, the innermost sector of that web is going to be consisting of triangular pieces, and those triangular pieces are going to give us the idea that we can also make a similar type of finite element mesh, so that the elements which are around the crack tip, they will have triangular shape, and then if I request the software to give the quarter point arrangement with those nodes, I am done with the 1 over square root r singularity. Okay, so that's why you have to be very careful in making mesh here. So you have to make a controlled mesh in this case. So what you have to do here is you have to go to the meshing option. Okay, so I go to, from modeling, I go to the meshing option. Then I would like to control the size in the way I want it. So I will do that with manual control. I have already drawn the lines, so using the lines I can do that, and I'll pick the lines that I want to control the number of elements on. So first of all, I would like to actually pick up line 3. Okay. That was also picked up. So line 3 has been picked up. Okay, and I'll pick up line 4 also and say okay. For these lines, I'll specify that let the number of elements be only about 4 on these lines, because that is away from the crack tip. I don't have to have many elements there. So see that it has taken the command, and these lines are now, they will be discretized into only 5 pieces. Okay. After you have done that, you can now go to choosing some other line, say, just a minute. Thank you. I am going to now pick the next line. You see, I am going to pick now line number 5. And for line number 5, I want the meshing to be finer towards the crack, and it has to be coarser, so that less number of elements will cause less computational efforts on the computer. So I have chosen line number 5, and I would like to have this gradient in the way this particular line is divided, so that there will be more elements on this side and less number of elements on the other side. Okay, so I want that increase in the element length along this line in a geometric fashion, and therefore we can define what is called as the spacing ratio in this case. Okay, so I go to that. After selecting line number 5, I say OK, and this is going to be line number. I want there 6, let's say, pieces to be made, such that the increase in the size is in the ratio of 0.2. If I do that and say OK, you can see that it is showing smaller elements towards the crack and bigger elements away from it, so that I have a coarser mesh on that side, and most required the denser mesh on this side. Okay, once that is done, I can go for creating the, I'll have to tell the software how to create the crack tip. It must understand that there is a crack tip inside the problem, and in order to do that, I have to go to what is called as creating concentration point. So I go to preprocessor modeling again. Okay, modeling again. I say in modeling, I have to, I'm sorry, that option is in meshing, it's not seen there. Meshing, and then I have to go to size control, and in size control, you have an option, key points. I'm sorry, not that. It is concentration key points. So if you have to create the concentration point, concentration key point, you can go to option create and tell the software where the crack tip is. So your crack tip is at location 2 of the key point. So I go and click on this. I can also enter the value 2 in this particular window on the left side, or I can use cursor and choose the key point number 2 from the active coordinate system. So I have done that. Once I do that and I say OK in this window, I have some options which are required to be given. The concentration point 2 has been selected, so it has appeared there, and I have to specify that the radius of the first row of elements, you can see the radius of the first row of elements can be actually chosen here. So I choose a small value, say 0.0025 as the small value. You can take a value smaller than this or slightly bigger than this also, and study what is its effects on the result. All of us know that finite element will give you more accurate results if smaller sized elements are used. Okay, smaller sized elements means more number of elements are used. But when you use more number of elements, the finite element analysis may take very long time, unreasonably long time. And therefore, a good user will always strike a balance between what should be the size of the mesh, so that the computational time required is not minimum or minimum, let's say, but the accuracy is acceptable and is maximum acceptable. That's what, that's the words in which I would like to put it. So you can take a value, say, reasonably small as given by this, 2.5 millimeters is the size. Okay, I would like to have the mesh close to around the crack tip to be that small, so that, we have more accurate results. And we have, of course, specified that as you go away from the crack, it will go on becoming coarser and coarser. Okay, so I say OK to that, and the instruction has been taken by the software. Once that is done, I have to go, and now these are only lines. I have not yet created the geometry fully. Okay, so for creating the geometry, I have to create area. So I go to modeling again, back, create, and then I say that create area for me, and create area for me arbitrary. In arbitrary, you have option by lines. So you have to just choose lines, all the lines 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, in order to create an area. So once you create all the select all the 5 lines, you can press yes, and you can see that the area has been created now, and our geometry creation is now done. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now we have to go for applying the boundary conditions. We understand that this is a quarter model, right hand side top top quarter of the plate. Therefore, this particular line, which is L5, is actually connected with another piece of material on the left hand side. Similarly, L1 and L2. L1 is not connected because that's the crack, but L2 is connected with lower material. Therefore, the symmetry line is actually L5 line and L2 line. These two lines are actually symmetry lines on which we have to apply the boundary conditions. Okay, and also load in ANSYS software is regarded as actually the boundary condition. Okay, so load can be applied on the top edge as well as bottom edge. Half of the top edge is available in the form of line L4 in our geometry. So I'll apply load on line L4 and give symmetry boundary conditions on lines L2 and L5. That's how I recognize the boundary conditions. So I go ahead with that. So in the preprocessor, okay, I go to loads. The boundary conditions appear in loads. So I say ANSYS does not differentiate between loads and boundary conditions. Therefore, any load can be regarded, whether it is direct externally applied or in the form of reaction, is essentially going to be actually a kind of boundary condition in general. Therefore, that's how it is. Yeah. So I go to define loads. Okay. Apply, and in apply I go to structural, and then displacements. Displacements. And in displacements, we have to go to applying the symmetric boundary conditions. Yeah, you see symmetric boundary conditions are given. Okay, and we are going to apply those boundary conditions with areas. Okay, so you know with area. So this is the one. Okay, and I say okay, and this is the other. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is the part of the process. You must read the instruction. You must read the instruction. Enter the area that contains the line. So, okay. So, I have done it with A5, the connection of area, this area with the other area on the left hand side with the help of line 5 has occurred. Okay. Now, similarly, I connect this lower line, which is in this area, okay, with the area below it by specifying the condition. After this, I have to go for applying the loads. Boundary conditions in mathematical terms are over. Now let us apply the loads. Loads also can be applied, as I said, through this only, displacement as well as load. So structural, and in structural, I'll apply pressure now. We have the stress acting. Stress is nothing but pressure, and we have to apply it on lines, and you have to choose a line for that. So I choose line L4. I know it is 11:31. Participants, please give me 10 more minutes. I will finish the demo, and after that, I'll give you sufficient time to join back the session, which will be the last session of the valedictory session. Because of small delay in the session of Dr. Raman Maiti, and because of some glitch in the connectivity, I have lost about 10 minutes. So please bear with me. So once you do that, you have to coming back. You have to apply the loads on the lines. So you choose a line. The line has been chosen. Okay, the line has been chosen. Once the line has been chosen, you have to say okay. You have got a window there. You have to specify the value of the load. This load is going to act in the upward direction, which corresponds to 125 negative. Okay, so I apply that, and oh my, I am sorry, I have to delete loads. It is applied on the other side also. So, loads. Just a minute. Sandeep? Hello, Sandeep?
Yes, sir.
Delete loads is, the option is available where?
In the loads button,
No, it is not there in the
in
loads
load,
button.
define loads.
Okay, okay,
There
it's
is
here.
delete
All right,
option.
all right. Okay, ठीक है. So you see delete loads is there, and then you have what are the options? Structural, all right. On pressure, on line. This is the line I want to delete the load on. So I say okay, and the load is gone. So yeah, nowadays, it is more my students which use the software than I. Okay, so please bear with me. But the idea is very important. So load is applied, boundary conditions are applied. Now you have to mesh the model so that you can proceed towards the solution. So I go to the main menu, okay, and in the main menu I go to the preprocessor. Okay, preprocessor I am already in. Then I go to the meshing option below modeling, and in that I go to the mesh option. First of all, let me close other things. Okay, I go to the mesh option. It is here. Okay, in the mesh option I have to mesh the area because our geometry is represented in the form of area. And since you have defined now the number of elements the lines to be divided, the sides to be divided, you just say that make the free meshing. If you say okay, it will show you the meshing. You can see that there is a web-like thing. I will actually make it bigger for your reference. You can see near the crack tip, near the key point 2, you are seeing two small concentric semicircles. They are like the cobweb, and the net that is actually seen made by the spider or the cob, okay, called as cobweb. So Once you have that done, you can go for meshing. Meshing is over. After that, you can go for further solving option. Okay, so solving in main menu, you have to go to solutions now. Okay, you have to go to solution option. Let us close preprocessor, solution. Then you have to go to analysis type. This is the analysis type. Click on new analysis. In new analysis, static analysis you have to specify because it is actually a static analysis. Nothing is time dependent here. Okay. Once you do that, you go to again the solution option. Okay, and then ask it to solve the problem. Okay. So you can say solve the current ls, and it shows you two windows. One window is called as the status command in Windows, in which the options that are chosen by you are shown. In this problem, since it is a static problem, all it is showing is that it is a 2D analysis and that the degrees of freedom, displacement degrees of freedom are ux and uy, and the analysis type is actually a static type, steady state analysis, and globally assembled matrix is symmetric. That's what it is saying. Other things are not important. They are not applicable for our problem. There is one more window, small current load step. So you have to say in that okay, and once you do that, your solution is done. Okay, so your solution is done. You can close the other windows. Now you can see, because of the boundary conditions, it is showing certain symbols. They represent that the analysis is done and certain reactions are developed at those points. Now I have to go for doing the post-processing of the whole problem. There is preprocessor which helps you create the geometry and mesh it and also give the boundary condition and loading. There is second part of finite element software which is called as solver, which has actually worked and solved for us. Okay, now we have to go for seeing the results. So we enter into the pre-processing part of the finite element analysis. For that, we have to do some screen adjustment, and for doing that, I'll actually go to plot control to actually make it bigger. Okay, so I have actually called this window. In this, I'll ask it to give me the zoom in the form of the window so that we can see this window and do the work appropriately for that. Okay. So you can see that you have a window here. I can arrange it properly as per my requirement. Okay, and this has come. Just see the cobweb type of thing. So let me close this. My job is done. I am seeing the blown up view of this. Once this is over, I have to actually go to now, seeing the nodes because I have to handle the nodes. So I go to the utility menu again, and in the utility menu, I just ask it to remove the other attributes of this geometry and ask it to give me only the nodes because I want to control the further things with nodes. So I say that, in this plot, I go to nodes. Where are nodes? These are the nodes. Okay. So it has plotted only the nodes now. Okay. And now in this, I am going to define the crack path. The software must know what is the crack path. So in order to define the crack path, I'll have to use the numbering. So I must activate the numbering also. Let me do that. I'll go to plot controls. Then I'll go to numbering here as I have done before, and I'll ask it to give me the node numbers. Okay. So let me see. Key point number, line numbers, area numbers, volume numbers, node numbers. Here I say okay, and it gives me the numbers of the nodes. You remember this triangle, first triangle is seen where there is the crack tip. Okay, and the first element is actually from this particular. Please see at the have a look at the cursor from this node to this node is your first element, but you are seeing actually a point in between also. That is because the element has actually shrunk to now quarter. Just a minute. I think the option of actually making the elements skewed is not done by me. I have made a mistake. You see, while defining the type of element, okay, please, wait for a minute. I'll go to the preprocessor. Now plot areas, plot controls, plot elements, okay. These are the nodes were not seen at the quarter point location, so maybe I'll have to do certain things quickly. I'll go to meshing. In meshing I have to mesh. Okay, in mesh I want to clear the mesh. Clear the mesh. Okay, areas mesh. So this is the area. I have removed the meshing. Okay, sorry, I have to do that again. I'll not explain now. We'll do it quickly. So for creating the mesh, again I go to meshing. Meshing, in meshing I go to size control, then concentration key points, okay, and I say concentration key point create. In that, of course, plot key points. So I go to this key point, and then once that is done, I say okay. Yeah, here you must note that not skewed means the node will remain at the internal node will remain at half the length, whereas we want it to be quarter point. So you see, you have to do this option, skewed to quarter point, and okay. Okay, this I had forgotten. So because of this, the mesh was not seen like quarter point mesh. So let us now repeat the other things. I will not explain them up to that particular point. So I'll go and create the area. So area is already there. Area is created. Boundary conditions are given. Loads are also given. Now let us mesh the model again. So preprocessor, then meshing. We are already in meshing, and after that we have to go to mesh. And in mesh, I'll mesh areas, and in areas I am going to mesh it freely now. So this is the area. Okay, I have selected. It has meshed it. Okay, it is showing the nodes also, so it is looking cluttered. Plot controls, numbering, node numbers I'll remove so that you can see, plot elements. So that it is a mesh very similar to the earlier mesh. Please note, but it is different when you actually take it to a different, level. So you have already, finished the meshing part. Now I'll go for solving the problem again, because the elements are now different. So I go to the solution, analysis type, new analysis. It is static by default. That's done. Then I go to the solve current LS, and I'm asking it to solve again. There is a warning because of distortion, which did not appear. So I came to know that there will be a problem. So solution is done, and I have brought you to the same point where we were. Okay, we are now beginning the post processing. So I'll just call the zoom tool. Okay, so plot control, and then I'll go to pan, zoom, rotate. There I'll pick up a window, and yes, we are there. Yeah, sorry about taking a little longer. Close this window. Yeah, this is over. After that, I can actually show you now that numbering can be seen. So all right, we'll go to plot controls, and then we will go to plot controls. We'll go to nodes. Sorry, it is not in the plot controls, it is in the plot. So node. So nodes are plotted. Then I go to plot controls for the node number, numbering, nodes. Okay. So you can see now. You can see now that the tip of the crack is here, and the end node of that element is here. The element is triangular. You see, it is triangular like this. Okay. And the middle node now has come closer. It is at 1/4 of the total distance between two nodes 2 and 12. All right. So that's the important thing that you have to notice. And then, with this, I just align it properly and we'll specify to the problem, what is the crack face path. And for defining the crack face path, you have to go to, general post processor. Okay, so I go to the general post processor. It is part of that. I give the path operations. It is down here. In the path operations, you have, the option define path. Okay, so in define path, you define it by nodes. And you have to here specify the nodes that are, corresponding to the path. The path is going to, the crack path is 2, 13 and 12. That's the way it has to be defined. So I just pick up those things 1, 2 and 3. Okay, you have to give minimum 3 nodes so that it is defined. So I have chosen these 3 nodes for defining the crack path. Okay, it will understand that it is there further. So for that particular line, so crack path is defined, and once that is done, you can click OK. So the crack path is defined. It can be named as, you can give some name to it. So you can give it a name, say K1, okay, and other things are okay. So number of divisions and number of data sets, it is something it is showing. You can just close this window. It is just saying that it has done the required thing. Then you have to define the local crack tip coordinate system, okay, so that the calculations can be done with respect to you. So you go to the utility menu, okay, then go to work plane, local coordinate system. In the local coordinate system, you have to create the local coordinate system, and then you have to create it, by say 3 nodes. Here it can be created by 3 nodes. So you have to define 3 nodes for that purpose. The node definition is going to begin from the origin of the crack. So it is this first, this later, and the vertically above one node, that is 117. So between 3, you have defined a coordinate system with the help of these 3 nodes, which are in perpendicular direction to each other. It has been numbered by default by ANSYS as 11, and then you can say OK. You don't have to do anything here, say OK. So you can see now 2 lines have appeared there. The coordinate system has been created. Okay. Now you have to go for activating the local crack tip coordinate system. So for that, again, you have to go to the utility menu. In work plane, change active coordinate system to a specified coordinate system. Okay, specified coordinate system, and a screen will come in which you have to write the name of the system, number, which is 11 for this coordinate system that we have created. So now we are all set. Okay, and now we have to go for the option for, see, we have actually specified that, and then to activate the crack tip coordinate system as a result, as a coordinate system for obtaining the results, we have to select the output option. Okay, so I go to the main menu. In the main menu, I go to the general preprocessor where I am already, and then I specify the options for output. Okay, options for output, it is here. In the options for output, I have to write here that the calculations be done in the coordinate system number 11, local coordinate system, which is generated at the crack tip. The rest of the things you don't have to do. Once you do that, enough instructions have been given. Now the last part of the demonstration is that, you have to ask the software to give the value of the stress intensity factor. So again, in the main menu, general post processor, you go to the nodal calculations. These are the nodal calculations, and in the nodal calculation, there is an option for calculating the stress intensity factor. Okay, so in nodal calculation, you can see that this is the stress intensity factor option. So plane strain we have already specified. Half symmetric boundary conditions are there. Material number for extra, that is a default value. You don't have to touch that. You just say okay. If you say that, your stress intensity factor here, K1, is calculated. I am highlighting it with the help of a highlighter. It is 33.214. Okay, please remember this value. I am going to the presentation back now. The demonstration is over. 33.214. So I go to the this presentation, okay, and I come here. You can see that using finite element analysis, the value is 32.245 when I earlier did the analysis, okay, and the theoretical value that we have calculated earlier is 31.6916. Therefore, the two values can be compared with each other. This is also close to what we have calculated now, and the percentage difference between the two values is minus 4.9. which is actually a good accuracy when you are comparing finite element results with theoretical results. The accuracy that you have obtained using the finite element analysis can also be improved further by refining the mesh, as I have said. But for giving you the demonstration and for a particular case, it may be so possible that you can be happy with 5% accuracy, and you can say that my finite element analysis that I have done is okay and acceptable, and you can stop here. So after this, I would just like to show that the value of stress intensity factor analytically is calculated in a book on elements of fracture mechanics by P. Kumar, which I have used, and that's it. Thank you. So my presentation is over. Sorry for delaying it little more. Because of the other problems, I had to, continue doing it. So I stopped presenting. If you have any quick 1 or 2 questions, I can take it. Otherwise, I can close the session. Thank you.
Participants, if you are having any doubt, you can ask.
The video for this presentation will be available, of course, on the YouTube, and you can watch it. We can also give you opportunity to download the video when we share it with you. You can, just replay it and try to do it following the same steps on your PC, and you can also feel confident that yes, you can also do some calculation for finding out SIF for a problem of simple geometry. Now, if you want to find SIF for a complicated geometry, all you have to do is change the geometry, spend some time in creating the geometry, and follow similar steps and get the value of SIF as your estimation. So that's how it is. Okay. Any particular questions? Okay. If you do not have any particular questions, I think I would like to stop this session now and announce that the session is over.